Okay, hi. Welcome to the EpiDoc tutorials series. This is part of a series of EpiDoc video tutorials that you can find at the URL that I've put down at the bottom of the screen there. These are freestanding tutorials that you can watch either as part of an EpiDoc training program or independently. For this session, my colleague Irene Vagionakis from the University of Bologna is going to talk about the concept of semantic tagging, using as an analogy for the idea of replacing human-readable semantic tagging, such as the Leiden conventions, or in this example, bibliographic conventions, with machine-readable semantic tags using XML and TEI and EpiDoc as the example for that. Just wanted to stress that this is not a tutorial on how to mark up bibliography in EpiDoc. It's using bibliography purely as an analogy for how we replace human-readable markup with machine-readable markup. So I'll hand over to you, Irene.
Okay, thank you. So yes, now we are going to see how to replace a human-readable markup with semantic XML markup, and we are going to do this through a bibliographic example. So let's take this bibliographic reference, and here we have some separated pieces of information. So first of all, we have an author, then we have an article title, and then we have the journal title, where the article is. Then we have the volume in blue, then the year, and then the pages. And what do we know about this text string? So the point is that we always use some conventions and some marks or signs for expressing some semantics. And for example, either if we do not know Georgian, from this slide we can understand that we have a bibliographic reference because we are using commas and full stops, and from the order of the elements we can understand what we have here. And let's go back to our more understandable examples for us who do not know Georgian. And here, so let's try to put this into XML. We want to say that this is a bibliographic reference. And for doing so, we surround the whole reference inside a bib element. You do not need to know at this point how is the syntax for XML. You're going to learn this at a later stage, but this is not relevant at this point. So we have a bib before the start of the reference and that closing bib at the end. In this slide, we have added an element also for marking the author. So we have an author element for the author of the article. And then we can add another element for the title. And we can also specify which kind of title we have here. We are using an attribute whose value is A, standing for analytic title. And this can be used, for example, as in this case, for articles included inside journals. And we can add a level also for the journal with a value J, which stands for journal. So we have a title of the journal and we have a title of the article included in it. And we want to say that the 33 is the number of the volume, so we can insert a biblioscope, so pointing to the scope of the bibliographic citation, saying that it is the volume number. Then we can add a date for the year of issue, and another biblioscope, this time with a different unit value, which is page instead of volume, for the pages. And now at this point we see that the previous conventional signs and marks that we used to include in bibliographic citations are not necessary anymore. So we do not need the full stop or the quotes or the brackets for isolating and separating these pieces of information, because we already have the XML elements expressing the same concepts but in a more semantic way. So we can remove this part And we can also display the different elements in a more ordered way, like this. And we could also remove the comma between the surname and the name, and then be even more precise about the author and say that Berman is the surname and Merrick the forename. And at this point, we could also remove the dash between the start page and the end page with two separate elements. We're not going to do this here. So what we can do with this? One of the main advantages of XML is that we can have multiple output from one single input. So we have this input in XML that we have just produced now. And from this, we can get different transformations, different outputs. For example, something which is very common between scholars is that you may have to rearrange your bibliography according to the place where you are publishing. So perhaps a journal wants you to have a bibliography with Harvard style or with Chicago style or something different. And you may want to change the style of your bibliographic references. And if you have encoded your bibliography in XML, you may produce different transformations, different outputs with different styles starting from the same input. So for example, from that markup, we can obtain this transformation, but also this one, and many, many other more. And I think this is all. Gabby, do you want to add anything?
I'd only add one small thing. Could you go back 3 slides to the one with the punctuation in red there? Yeah, this one. So no, the next one. Yeah. The only thing I'd add here is that we've talked in this presentation about removing all the human readable markup. So any punctuation should disappear and be replaced by machine readable markup by XML tags. And we could keep going, right? We could say that the colon in the middle of the title there is an editorial convention separating the main title from the subtitle, and we could replace those with 2 different tags. We could do the same with the hyphen in the page numbers, as Irene said. We could do the same in all sorts of other ways. We could the spaces in between the words in the title are a typographic convention, and we could say we're going to remove those spaces and replace them with XML tags. So each one of those words will be tagged as a word, and we'll specify which words are abbreviations as GISs and which words, are toponyms or various other things. At some point, we decide that we've got all the information we need, and we're going to stop. For the purposes of a bibliographic rendering, we stop here and we don't separate the title and we don't separate the page numbers, but we could do, for every piece of encoding you do, you need to decide how far you want to go and at which point you want to stop, and you have to stop somewhere, and you probably should stop sooner than your instinct tells you to, because say, oh well, this would be cool if, but if you're not going to use it and you don't think anyone else is going to use it, then maybe just stop, because life is finite. So that's the second sort of lesson from this from this analogy demonstration. Great.
Right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Irene.